Welcome everyone to the December 2023 meeting, including first-time guests and new club members. Please be respectful and hold your questions till the end of the presentation, unless otherwise requested by our speaker. The clicker is not working, Naveen, so I'm gonna ask you to click for me. No, you're good. All right, and so that's basically what this says. For the audience in the room tonight, please wait to ask your questions till the microphone is passed to you. For the audience in the Zoom meeting, if you have questions, you can just throw them in the chat at any time. Yes. No questions tonight. Never mind. No questions whatsoever. We have too much to get through. Okay, next slide. Okay, safety slides that Dana has put together for us. A few things to keep in mind. We should identify room hazards, which include the cables behind the projectors. So be careful if you walk back there. Chairs with bags beside them, and low light and a bright screen. Okay. Identify CPR certified attendees. If you are CPR certified and you're okay with sharing that knowledge, can you please raise your hand at this time? Okay, we have one CPR certified attendee in the room. Okay, designate an emergency caller. Dana is the emergency caller for tonight. And then let's identify the location of the fire equipment, which is right back there in the, is that in the kitchen? Right by the kitchen. Okay. Remote attendees, be aware of your surroundings. That's the best we can do for you. Okay, and then this last slide that Dana made here is to know your evacuation routes. These are the evacuation routes for the museum, which I didn't look at ahead of time, but it looks like we're going up these stairs, not the elevator in the case of an emergency, and then out the front door, I assume, right? Or this door here? This door here. And that's one way. Okay, got it. Cool. All right. Upcoming events. We have January 5th, First Fridays with TLC at Three Bears Acres. January 12th is our RAC observing session for January. January 13th, we're having our first RAC astronomy class of the year, which is Intro to Telescopes and a Telescope Clinic. January 18th is our imaging meeting. The topic is to be determined. January 26th, indoor meeting. February 3rd and 4th is astronomy days. We'll have a little bit more information on that later. February 9th is our RAC observing session for February. February 9th is also First Fridays again with TLC. February 10th is going to be another RAC astronomy class. And then we have February 16th, indoor meeting, and February 22nd, imaging meeting. Okay. Next slide.
Real quick, the event tomorrow night.
Okay, yeah. So the event tomorrow night at Prairie Ridge has been postponed. Do we have any details about when?
I think they know.
Okay.
Any other day.
Okay, any other day other than January 20th. It could be any other day. Okay, after the meeting, some of us may go to Sammy's Tap and Grill up on Avon Ferry Road. You're welcome to join us just for, dinner, dessert, drink, whatever. If we could just get a quick head count of anyone who might be interested, if you'll raise your hand so we just have a general idea. Party of one. Naveen. Okay. All right. Well, we'll ask again at the end of the meeting. All right. Go on. All right. So tonight's presentation, we have our 2023 imaging showcase. This thumbnail looked a lot better on a smaller screen. I apologize. Okay. And so this is a showcase we do every year in December where RAC astrophotographers will share their favorite images, best images, whatever they want to share from their work of the year. And this presentation will be led by our RAC imaging group leader, Chris Cole. And the bio I have for him is Chris has been with the club since 2007, starting out as a visual observer. Since cell phone cameras were not around at the time, the only option to take his first crude images of the night sky was to hold a point-and-shoot camera up to his telescope's eyepiece. Ecstatic with his results, he went on to become one of the club's longest practicing, most dedicated, and most talented astrophotographers. For the past several years, he has led RAC's imaging group, and he has also served as a club co-chair for 4 years. Okay, so right before I turn it over to Chris, I just want to let you guys know, all of you who are presenting tonight, I'm sure Chris will reiterate this, but there's a 1-minute timer for every image because we have a lot of great images to get through tonight. So we have set up a countdown timer, which should be visible up here and on Zoom, and it will beep at you every 60 seconds. And if you don't move on, then you're going to run out of time. So, all right. So should I go ahead and start it? Should I wait?
Well,
let's let Chris start it. Yeah. And then Chris, you let me know when to start the timer. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Sure. Come on. Let's do this. Okay, and you can do it. Let's go PowerPoint. Hey, there you go. Nice computer. Okay. I mean, is everything, you see this?
Yep, we can see it just fine.
Okay, very good. So yeah, Anna, thanks for the kind words. Yeah, we have a lot of images to get through. I was hoping to put in an extra slide about what the Imaging Club is all about. Or club. I mean, we're part of the club, but we're just a select group of people who just prefer to have cameras do the observing for us. And so, other than that, as far as like the routine events that we have through every month throughout the year. So we do have our own independent meetings, and we welcome everybody with little to no experience. And just like the club, regular club members, you don't have to have any equipment to participate. In fact, we've even had a member a while back who just participated by processing data that NASA had available to the public. After all, we are taxpayers, and the data belongs to us, right? So, anyway, given that, the other things that we do is that every quarter we get together for a hybrid meeting, and in that meeting, we do what's called the quarterly challenge, where we just select an area of the night sky or an object of the night sky, where everybody tries to test out their imaging skills and see what they can come up with. Another thing that we do is, two other things that we do is we do hold workshops once in a while. We have one planned coming up. Don't have a date for it just yet. And another thing that we also do is we have little impromptu get-togethers where the second half of doing all our imaging, besides just going outside and collecting the images, is processing. So we have processing sessions and impromptu processing sessions on the weekends. And let's see. Yep, that's about it. So otherwise, let's go ahead and get this party started. So anyway, here's our imaging showcase for 2023. Let's see who's up first. Actually, that's a dumb question. It's well, me. Okay, so my first image is of an astronomical object here. So this is Barringer Crater. Earlier this year, back in April, my dad and I, we went out to the Southwest, and we browsed around at all the natural sites, including the Grand Canyon, which is the biggest thing out there in Arizona. My best friend lives in Arizona, so we had a place to crash. That's nice. But the other thing I wanted to go see was the Barringer Crater. My dad didn't know exactly what it was, which shocked me, because I mean, there's been so many photographs of it out there. But anyway, this gives you an idea of the sheer size of the crater. It's about a mile in diameter. If you look just a little lower right center, you see a little platform out there with a little person out there looking out onto the crater. Really quick factoid about the place: if you go, there's a permanent weather pattern that's over the crater, and when I was there, winds were about sustained 20 miles per hour with 45 miles per hour gusts, which is not too uncommon. Okay, so here's my next image. I did a mosaic of the area around Orion's belt, and those are those three stars that you can see that are to the upper left of center there. And two of the most common objects that you see in this area are the Horsehead Nebula around, I think it's, I won't say it's Alnitak, maybe wrong, but that's that bright star at the bottom of the three stars that make up the belt. And then the part that makes up the quote sword is probably one of the most imaged objects in the night sky, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, the Great Orion Nebula, where you have a lot of hot star formation and whatnot. This was taken with an 85 millimeter lens and ASI 183 camera by ZWO. And so there's that, and that's all I have. So the next person that's up is Naveen.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. You ready? Oh,
Yeah.
You just said that. Okay.
All right, so my first picture is the Rho Ophiuchi cloud complex taken with the Rokinon 135 millimeter camera lens and a Canon T2i. I like this picture because it's got a little bit of everything: dark nebula, reflection nebula, blue and yellow. Yellow is not very common. Emission nebula with the red. It's near the core of the Milky Way, and in the top you can see a little bit of dust. That's the blue horse head, which I've not imaged yet. So, and then there's, I think, 3 globular clusters and some small galaxies if you really, really peek. I keep coming back to this one and taking pictures and plan to get a larger mosaic because I love those long dark tendrils coming off on the left of the frame in this orientation. So more to come in the future. And on time. Okay. My next one is same setup, same camera, the Cygnus region. So from the North American Nebula in the top left, all the way down to the Crescent Nebula in the bottom right. There's just a whole bunch of really neat structure in here. And I've started using this. I also image with a Celestron C8, so at 8-inch. So at longer focal length, I've been using this to find objects to go focus in on. So I can't point to it right now, and I have something, but there's one of the images I want to show that is from a region a little bit right of center and up. There's a slightly brighter area. And then in the North American Nebula, you look at Mexico. That's the Cygnus Wall, which I think is my next image. We could go to it. I'm going to get beeped anyway. So next. Oh no, this was
Sorry,
the
it's not the wall.
yeah, no worries. So this is it doesn't have a common name, NGC 6914. Just kind of decided to point my Celestron C8 at it. I've got a cool monochrome camera, the ASI 2600 mm. I think I was out at Three Bears Acres when I took this data. So just from one night, color. So red, green, and blue filters. Turned out really neat. I did put this one on a coffee mug. So I drink coffee out of this regularly, as well as the next picture.
Okay, cool. The coffee nebula.
Yeah. Yeah, well, make them functional, right?
Right.
Next. I'll get beeped in the middle of this one, but that's all right. So this is the Cygnus Wall with the same Celestron C8 and a monochrome camera. This is in false color with it's a show palette. So sulfur, hydrogen, and oxygen mapped to respectively red, green, and blue, popularized by Hubble processing, what NASA did. NASA was doing and still does. It's also called the Hubble palette, I think. This is also a coffee mug. I oriented it a little bit, rotated counterclockwise about probably 40 degrees, so I could fit more of the wall around the mug. I really like the way the colors turned out in this one. Very popular object to image in narrowband. And I think that's all I had, Chris.
Okay, a few seconds. Do you think you're going to do a mosaic of this area with this C8?
No, not this one. The C8 has a lot of aberrations that I'm not going to ever do a mosaic with it, ever.
Right, very good. Okay, let's see who's next. Let's see, we have Bill Swanson. Bill Swanson, are you out there? I don't know if AV team can see him in Zoom. I don't have my panel up here.
There. Oh, good. Okay. Sorry, I have the microphone. No, we don't see Bill online, so.
Okay, I'll narrate this really quick. This is a nicely resolved image of Jupiter. One thing about planetary not nebula, excuse me, planetary imaging is that it's very heavily dependent on very good sky conditions. In this case, this is really close to opposition of this pass of Jupiter, and right now Jupiter has just passed opposition a few weeks ago, and so that's the reason why the shadow of Io that you see on top of the planet is like practically right next to it, because we're in a complete straight line with the planet right on this date right here. So anyway, that's what Bill had. I believe he just had one. So let's see. Yep, he only had one. So next is Lejoy Samuel. Are you out there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Are
you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
So the ones I have are, I took it with the Vianus Vespera Smart Telescope. I just got it this year. I had the Unistellar EV scope, but it didn't have very wide field of view. So this one has a much better wide field of view, and it allows you to take mosaics on the telescope itself. But this one, the Veil Nebula, I took, I think, a couple of mosaics and stitched them together. And so I was happy with all the hydrogen alpha that can be seen on there. I didn't get too much of the oxygen there, but maybe with another filter, I may be able to pick that up next time.
Yeah. Usually supernova remnants, which is what this is, they don't have much in the way of oxygen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll look at the next one. Yeah. So this is another one that I really wanted to pick up, with and this telescope allowed me to do that, to get the entire M31, M32. And I think this also, I did some couple of mosaics and then stitched them together. So.
Okay, very good. Just a quick factoid for everybody out there. Keep in mind, this is a galaxy. So all these stars that you see are not really over there at the galaxy. Those are stars that are in our own Milky Way galaxy. So if you could pull away the veil of the stars, that's sort of what it would mostly look like. Just be a galaxy in the blackness of space. So anyway, all right, here we go.
Yeah, this last one. So this one, the Pleiades, comes out in the wintertime. This is one that I really wanted to take. I've been waiting almost 2 years to finally get this, and I was able to get that. Now the star spikes are not from the original image. I added that using software. Yeah, this came out. The oxygen really shows, and all the nebulosity shows up pretty well in this too. So, and it's also called as the Seven Sisters, I believe. Yeah. And I didn't realize we could actually see this with the naked eye till a friend of mine pointed that out to me. So a couple of nights ago, I went out and could see it, but barely. It was there in the sky.
Yeah, for those who are over at the Willard, who've been to the Willard event, yeah, it's even at the top of that with all the light pollution in Raleigh, you can see it, okay. It's not that hard to find.
Yeah. You just have to know where to look.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Steve, you there?
Here.
I know you are because I heard you earlier.
Yes, I'm here. This
Are you
was a
ready?
picture. This is well, okay, we're going to start with Saturn. All right. This is a version of Saturn that I picked up and took from the house. I think this was September 5th, if I remember correctly, when I took this. This one and the following planetary pictures were all taken with my 8-inch f6 with a inexpensive Astromania 3X Barlow and an ASI 2600 MC Pro. And so this I caught one night just after midnight after it cleared the trees at my house. And I like it because of the color, number one, but I also like it because it was the first really decent planetary image that I've been able to pick up and find. And I don't know, I suspect that I'm probably pushing the limits of what I can do with that piece of equipment with this, but it turned out really nice. It started out as just me experimenting, can I do this and how well will this inexpensive Barlow work? Next. And this is an image of Jupiter I picked up with the same setup. This was taken November 2nd, again, in sort of a similar thing. And I chose this just because I wanted to see what I could do with Jupiter at that point. And it was a near opposition at a good point. And the red spot at this particular time I took was very visible. So this again occurred just after midnight when I took this series, took the the series of images that got stacked into this picture. And again, I liked the way the resolution turned out, and with a little bit of color processing and intensification on it, the colors turned out pretty well as well. You want to hit the next one? This one was a image of Jupiter I took on the next night, and I like this one. I wish I had a red spot in this one to go with it, but the red spot wasn't very cooperative with the eclipse. But I picked this one up because it shows the end of a transit, and that in this case Europa. That's Europa coming off of the edge of the planet on the lower right with the shadow behind it, and then the other two are Io and Ganymede, the other two moons, and Callisto would be off of the screen on the picture down to the right. I didn't pick up enough field of view for this one to pick up all four of the Galilean moons. But I thought this was pretty neat, the way the moons laid themselves out, in particularly with the transit coming off. I have another picture of the transit on the other end at the beginning, but I don't have stuff in the middle because it went through a tree and went behind a tree for a while, and I had to wait for it to come out the other side. But I particularly like this one because I was able to pick up the moons on that edge. And the last one, Chris?
I think that's all I had for you.
Oh, okay. You didn't pick up. Okay. That works then.
Yeah. Well,
right.
One thing I think is worth mentioning about you is that at least I didn't hear it about the equipment that you were talking about, but I think it's worth mentioning to everybody in the audience who aren't too familiar with the scope that you use. You made that yourself.
That one's what I call my Frankenscope. That one started out that one started out as a Meade 826, but the mirror I made learning to make mirrors as part of a mirror making class that RAC and the Craft Center at NC State did many, many years ago. And so the mirror for this one I made, the tube is the original tube and mirror cell, but everything else in the scope has been replaced. So this is not the scope that I made from scratch. You're thinking about my 4 1/4 f 5.6.
Oh, well, dropped my bubble there. Okay.
Yeah, this is the bigger one that was the original one, but I've made parts of this one and replaced a lot of parts in this one for sure.
Okay, very good. All right, so next we have Seth Heather.
Yep, Hetherington. Sorry, I truncated my name in my signing in. Sorry about that. Yeah, hi.
All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. So this is obviously the Andromeda Galaxy, and this is actually a test shot. I'm planning a trip out to Utah to visit a couple of Bortle 1 and 2 skies to do some astrophotography. And so I purchased a secondhand Skywatcher 72 millimeter refract doublet, and it's about 420 millimeter focal length. And attached to this was a Canon 3 Ti that I modified. It doesn't obviously matter for this, but it will for some other things. So this is sort of my going into sort of more deep sky photography than I've ever done. And I took this out at the dark sky site at Stanton River State Park, and I'm actually pretty happy with it because it's only 15 minutes of imaging, and yet
wow, that's impressive.
And you can see all this detail. You can see the companion galaxies. I had previously done one with a just a 180 millimeter Nikon lens on a Nikon camera and a star tracker, and that was okay. But this clearly is superior to that. So I'm very pleased with this. It's kind of a test subject, and I hope to take this rig out with me when I go to Utah. One thing I will say is the mount is one of the Star Adventure GTIs that everybody's raved about. The amount of backlash on that is unbelievable. It's huge, and many people have reported that. Some people have reported you can get 3 minutes of 3 minutes without any motion, without any guiding. But I can't take any pictures with this thing without guiding it. So I maybe just have a bad sample. I don't know. But in any event, it's nice. So I have to guide this thing, and it works out fine. This one is Markarian's chain, and I really like this because I took this with a Red Cat and an ASI 294 one-shot color camera. And I just think it's a fantastic structure of a whole bunch of galaxies. And if you look at the background, there are galaxies all over the place because this is in the Virgo supercluster. I want to try this again with orienting the camera about 90 degrees and shifting the Markarian's change in this case would be toward the top part, because there's a ring of other galaxy spirals, I think, that are several Messier objects sort of outside of the view of this. And I'd like to be able to get one shot where I capture Markarian's chain and those additional galaxies. And I think I could do it with this setup. This was actually 3 hours of imaging done up at the same place, Stanton River State Park.
All right, Johnny Horn. I think he said he was going to be able to make it. Are you there, Johnny?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. All right, here we go.
All right. Okay, this is just a few days ago. This is the close pairing of the crescent moon and Venus. I used a 8-inch Newtonian that I built about 40 years ago. It has a hefty spider in it, so that's the reason for the diffraction spikes. And there was actually an occultation in Northern Europe on that morning where the moon actually hid Venus, but this is from my backyard. Next. This is M16. It's a shot I made with my Meade 14-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain scope at configured to about f7. And I did it with an MC 2600 MC camera and a ultimate Optilong ultimate filter.
Johnny, really quick. Was it, which scope was this again?
It's a Meade 14-inch f10 ACF scope.
Okay, I guess
configured to f7.
Okay, yeah, I guess the 2600 is wider than I thought it would be because, yeah, the way I was looking at this, I was like, surely it could have gone, the field would have been narrower enough and you could see the pillars a little better in the middle.
Yeah, this is about 2,800 millimeters of focal length. So,
yeah, very good. Okay, let's see.
Okay. This is the supernova in M101, again with the Meade 14 at about f6.7 with the 2600 MC color camera. And this is several 60-second exposures. I was afraid I was going to get clouded out, so I tried to do as many exposures as I could, and they couldn't be very long. But this is several 60-second exposures stacked at the f6.7 focus of the 14-inch. Okay.
All right. I think that's all I chose from you.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you had a lot of other amazing things, but I was just like, these are ones that you don't see very often. So,
no problem.
All right, Joe, you ready?
It's coming up.
I'm ready.
Okay. I hope so. You got a lot to show.
I'll be fast. Promise. All of my shots are pretty much just old digital SLR camera on a fixed tripod, so there's nothing fancy here. So this is just a star trail shot on some equipment at the Jordan Lake Dam, and you can see the moon setting in the lower right, and then the stars circling around the North Star there. Next. This is from a trip to the Smoky Mountains. This is from the Foothills Parkway, looking down across Weir's Valley, looking east, so the stars are rising in the east. And you can see the glow along the horizon from Gatlinburg, about 10 miles distance. Next. This is from a trip out west for the annular eclipse in October. This is from Monument Valley, and these are dawn approaching, interrupting the star trails behind the Mittens in Monument Valley. Next.
Really quick, Joe, was the that brightest streak there that's a little more to the right, starts at center, but goes up to the right, is that Venus?
No. Well, you might be right. I don't remember.
Yeah, because I was trying to just really recall because the way it was oriented is like, okay, this is definitely west, and I think Venus at this time was a morning star.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Because this is bleeding well into twilight.
Yeah. Yeah, I went out there. That was really nice. We went, my dad and I went on horseback riding back in April, so it was pretty cool.
Yep. Okay, next. Surprisingly, from the Jordan Dam, you can watch the rockets take off from Florida, which in the launch pad's about 500 miles away. And so this is a launch of a Falcon Heavy, and the Falcon Heavy has the little side boosters on the first stage. And in this case, you see the side boosters peeling off to return back to Florida, and the rest of the first stage headed off to the, in this case, the northeast. Next, and should say that the launches are best seen typically during twilight because the exhaust trail will linger for you. Okay, next. Of course, you can get a lot closer, and in this case, this is the a launch of an Antares rocket from the Wallops Island facility in Virginia. And the nice thing about Wallops is there's a couple locations that get you within 2 to 3 miles of the launch site. So this is just a few seconds after ignition, super short exposure, so we can see the blue of the kerosene flame there. And I'm about 3 miles from the launch site here. Okay, next. This is a little wider view with a 300 millimeter lens. A few seconds later, and you can see even from 3 miles, the causeways is there, and then the water tower, and I think even at this point, the sound from the launch hasn't quite reached the observing location. Next, and then this is, you can see it's actually a twilight launch. This is the same launch, but it's a with a wide angle lens, and I'm taking a picture every second. And so this is about 3 minutes duration of the launch all the way through main engine cutoff of the first stage. Next. And then this is of the annular eclipse back in October. I went out to Midland, Texas. And so you can see it's sweeping through. The second sun there is right around second contact as we go from a partial phase to the annular phase, and then the middle image is the midpoint of annularity, and then the fourth sun there is the third contact, and as we head out toward the end of the annular eclipse. Next, this is this is the only shot of all of these that was actually a track shot, and so this is again the annular eclipse. As we sweep through second contact, we're going from the partial phase of the eclipse to the annular phase. And so I've staggered the exposures digitally, so you can see the transition from the ring closest to the, I guess, to our left, and then going upward into annularity. And you can see that it's the gradation is uneven, and that's due to the mountains along the edge of the moon. So it's kind of Bailey's beads in reverse, if you will. Next. And this is a wide angle shot, same event. And the only trick of this shot was lining up the camera so that it was aimed dead center at mid eclipse. And the way you do that is you get there early in the morning, pre-plan for a bright star at the same azimuth angle, set up the camera, and then you wait 4 hours, and eventually things work out for you. Okay, next. And you can see
That's sort of what I did over during the Mercury transit because, well, I equatorial mount, and I had to know where the North Star was at the observing area I was going to be.
Yeah, and this is the final one. And so this is again, it's just a fixed tripod shot, and I'm showing the approach from the left to second contact. The middle of the frame is the annularity, and then we continue on third contact, and then we heading off to the end of the eclipse. That's it.
Well, that's very contemporary art right there. Oh, okay, let's see who's next. Jim Perchicante, are you there?
I am here.
All right, very good. Are you in Hawaii right now?
No, I'm in Virginia.
All right, always, Virginia is what, for lovers? Okay. All right, here we go. Ready?
Yep, let's go. All right. So after 3 years of being a DSLR imager, about a year ago, I added a ZWO 2600 mono cooled astrocam to my repertoire and a set of filters. And this is one of the first few targets that I shot at with that setup. And so this is narrowband imaging of the California Nebula. And what I like about this is that processing this and trying my best to bring out multiple colors and not just have it be all green and gold, it really began to look like a 3D shape to my eye and began to see more of a concave shape instead of that familiar flat California shape. And so then as I read about this, it kind of makes sense because Menkib, which is that bright star there towards the top right center, is thought to be responsible for ionizing this emission nebula and giving off all this glow, is a runaway star, and it's heading in the direction of the California Nebula and pushing a lot of solar wind at it. So maybe it's got some dust accumulating in front of it, and then it's lighting it up with its ultraviolet radiation. But I think we can go on to the next one. All right, this is one of the Hawaii shots. And so we went to Hawaii over the summer, and we were on the Big Island, and on the Big Island is Mauna Kea, and Mauna Kea has one of the best observing places in the world. It's at 14,000 feet and requires a four-wheel drive. So I went to one of the second best observing places in the world, which was the Visitor Center at 10,000 feet. And 10,000 feet above sea level takes on a whole new meaning when you can actually see the sea from where you are. But what was kind of remarkable about this to me is that the moon was up. There was a 24% illuminated moon over my shoulder, and just being above the haze, I could still get a better picture of the Milky Way than I can at my Boreal 3 site when there's no moon. The other neat thing about Hawaii is being at a lower altitude, you get to get the galactic bulge in the center of the Milky Way nice and high instead of just skirting over the horizon as we normally see it. And Rho Fiichi that Naveen showed us earlier is nice and high, so it's a good place for you to go, Naveen. You can take the 135 up there and image it most of the night. All right, next. All right, so this is the same thing, and this is shot in the same location, but shows the foreground. So I'm standing next to the visitor center. It's about 15 feet to my right, and I'm shooting across a parking lot that's very crowded with lots of cars driving by. I really didn't plan this location very well. And that peak you see there in the foreground, that's a vent on Mauna Kea. It's not very far away. We actually hiked up that, and that's where we watched the sunset before I set up to shoot the Milky Way. Behind that peak is a layer of clouds that's covering the valley between Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. And then way over there in the lower right, you have Mauna Loa starting to peak up above the clouds, and that's another 14,000 foot volcano on the Big Island. And way over on the right, just above Mauna Kea, there are 4 bright stars forming sort of a kite shape, and that's the Southern Cross, which you can actually see from Hawaii. It's about 20 degrees north latitude, so you can see the Southern Cross. So you get to see a bit more of the Milky Way on that side of the galactic bulge than we usually get to see. And again, with the moon up and all these cars driving in front of me, still made a great place to shoot the Milky Way. All right, next. I'll make this one quick. And then this last one's just for fun. This is the Shark Nebula, which is a dark nebula up in Cepheus. And it's a little challenging to shoot these dark nebula. I think this is about 6 hours, and that's usually more time than I'll put on anything because I usually don't have the kind of patience to do that. But this was kind of fun to shoot and process, and it just I find it remarkable how much it actually looks like a shark. It's got a couple little blue reflection nebula there on the one side, some nice dark nebula around the eye, and then there's a little galaxy, a little UGC object, a little orange galaxy up there behind its dorsal fin. That's 58 million light years away, and shining through all that dust makes it look kind of orange. All right, that's all I got.
Very good. Okay, who's next? Marshall Sweet. He was kind of on the fence whether or not he was going to make it. Are you there, Marshall?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
All right. And I don't even know what images I'm going to be because I think Chris just picked a handful that I threw at him, I guess. But so this is M81 and M82, of course. This is one of my first. So I just basically started this year. So this is from earlier this spring. And this was basically one of the first things I shot with my Astrotech 80 millimeter and the 533 MC. At least I'm pretty sure this is with the 533 MC. It might have been with my Nikon, but I can't remember. This is probably with the 533 MC. Not much else to say about it. Would love to have gotten more data on it. I probably will in the future, but that's all I took. So, all right, we can go to the
You
next
probably
one.
know that there's another galaxy that's quote
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
above
and
this.
just the way that it framed, I just kind of stuck with these two. The 533 chip is, kind of wonky in that it's square. So, um, yeah, I just kind of decided to stick with those two. All right, this is M13. This is the globular cluster that I shot for the challenge earlier, the target challenge, I guess, that we picked over the summer. So, again, still kind of new with the 533 MC at this point, but I think it turned out pretty good. I like the little the little galaxy off to the left there. Would have probably liked to get a little bit more color. I'm not like super interested in the globulars, but again, the prospect of getting, one like this, like I said, with a little bit more color or something like that is tantalizing. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about that one. All right, so this is the Cygnus wall from mostly from this fall. This is, I think, about 10 hours of integration. Again, with the 533 MC on the 80 millimeter refractor. So the first time and I know we weren't supposed to talk a whole lot about processing, but the first time I ran this one, I forgot to remove one of the color noise. Then I went back and redid it, and I found there was a little bit of blue in there, and I'm not sure that's actually supposed to be there or not, but I kind of liked it, so I just kind of left it like that. So I was pretty pleased with the way this one turned out. It's pretty bright. You can see a lot of the dark nebula, all the different kind of components of this particular part of the Cygnus wall, plus I guess the Pelican Nebula, I think is what that is. But yeah, I like this one. I'll probably get this one framed. I like it a lot. So, all right, next. All right, so this is a animation of Jupiter. Saw some nice Jupiter images earlier. I was hoping that maybe we could put the animation up there just to kind of get some spinning in there too. So this is I really liked how this one turned out. Seeing was pretty good that night. I think this is October 28th. This is obviously a transit of Io, and then that's Callisto, if I remember correctly, out there in front, which is rare for, Callisto is normally so far out of the frame. It doesn't normally show up like that. So I had to lower the frame rate a little bit to get the ROI a little bit bigger so I could get Callisto in there. But it was totally worth it in my opinion because it looks super cool, kind of giving you a little bit of frame of reference on the spinning there. So not sure if the still image made it in there, maybe it did, but the still image from just a single frame of this turned out really well too. So and this was shot with the C9.25 178 MC as the camera.
Oh, very good. That's pretty close to when I did my time lapses. C9.25. It's an awesome scope, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. Totally worth the money. All right, this is my shot at M101 with the supernova, which you can see pretty brightly there. I didn't get a lot of data, at least not as much as I should have. Again, this is earlier this year. I'm still kind of learning, how to actually collect data, but still turned out pretty good, I think. There's a little bit of blue cast to this image because I wanted to bring out some of the blue, and I think when I processed this, I think I just kind of cheated and turned up the blue a little bit. But yeah, that's the supernova there. I actually kind of like my comparison image better, even though it's super noisy or whatever. I have a image comparison because I happen to be imaging it before and after. So, but this is just the data from after. Again, also love the little galaxy off down to the left there. I forget what object that is, but I like that. That was in the frame too. So
Yeah, I can't remember the name of that little galaxy.
yeah, it's
do
some
know that
NGC
it's
number.
orbiting
Yeah.
it though.
All right, next. If I don't keep going here. All right. This is my first ever DSO image. So this was a shot with the Nikon, but with the 80mm refractor. So you can kind of tell by the noise pattern, which stands out at least on my monitor right now. Again, that's shot with a DSLR. But this is only like an hour or two from my, Bortle 6, Bortle 7-ish house. So shout outs to the Orion Nebula, just being great target to shoot. We'll probably start shooting it again here shortly, as it comes back around into my view from my place. So
Are you planning on getting a monocam?
what's that?
Were you planning on getting a monocam?
In the future, yes. Don't quite have the funds for that yet, I would say, but
Oh, I
but
totally
looking forward
understand.
to trying to like different narrowband stuff too. So all right, and this is probably one of my favorite planetary images from this year, besides the Jupiter one, Saturn, of course. I can't even remember the name of the moons. I think it's Tethys and Mimos. I don't even know how you say it. This was September 30th, I think. Again, also shot with the C9.25 on the 178 MC. Seeing was good. Colors turned out pretty good as a result, and the moons did as well. Not much else to say.
Well, one thing that you can say is that you can tell when Saturn is past opposition straight line
Yeah.
with Sunday night, because you can see the shadows starting to peek over there on the left.
Yep.
Yeah, usually the shadow is like completely gone or not visible when it's at opposition. So
Yeah, and I have a couple other Saturns from this season too, and yeah, you can. Would love to be able to get them consistently enough where you could almost do like an animation, but that's an
yeah,
ambitious project.
do that. I did one nowhere near as cool, but yeah, like what you should do is like try to image it like once every year for 15 years. If you
Yeah,
look
I'm
looking
certainly
into
going to do it like every year and put that together because yeah, that's
yeah, you'll see how the rings and the axial tilt of the planet changes.
yeah.
All right, Chris.
Hello.
Okay. Yep. Save the best for last. Why don't you wow us?
Not sure if that's the case, but we'll see. Okay, so yes. Okay, so this is, as you can see, the Orion Nebula, and that's actually, so I actually have in my Flickr account 2 different Orion Nebulas, one from earlier in the year, the other from later. This is from a modified camera, and the other was unmodified, so I was able to see the difference between the two, and you get to see a lot more red with the modified camera. With this, it was just simply a 8-inch f4 Newtonian with a coma corrector and pulling up the exact data on it, and 38 minutes of time.
Oh, that's nice. I like the diffraction spikes here.
Well, it's a Vixen, so they have big, thick spiders, so that's what happens. Okay, so you have M33, and this one is, once again, that same Newtonian with a Nikon D7200, which is unmodified, and that's 72 minutes of time.
Plan on going back to it?
Yes, definitely, especially, well, I mean, this was not a lot of time, as a lot of people know. It's just kind of big, object that's fairly dim for its size, so you kind of have to put a lot more time to it. So this was just another kind of, just I had time, just threw a few minutes of time on it and got something decent. Okay, Dumbbell Nebula, and for that one, once again, the 8-inch f4, just 15 minutes of time was all it was needed to get this image.
Really? So wait a minute. What kind of scope you're using here?
So most of the time I'm using it's called a Vixen R200 SF. So it's an 8-inch f4 Newtonian. I'm using the Starzona Nexus 0.75x coma corrector. So it's coming in at f3. So it's essentially a 600mm f3 that you're getting out of this. So it's very fast. So that's how you get a lot more detail that quickly.
Okay, yeah, because that kind of threw me off because I do have or I used to have an 8-inch Newtonian a while back, and using pretty much the same equipment, but the nebula is bigger. So, but you got that corrector that brought it down to f3, 600 millimeters instead of 800.
Exactly.
Okay, very good.
This is NGC 1514. I think it's called the Crystal Ball Nebula. And a lot of the time, on cloudy nights, they have on the beginning imaging, they have these challenges every month. And this is one of the challenges they had. And this one, I put a lot more time, 4 hours with that same setup.
Yeah, so any other imagers that are out there who like taking pictures of planetaries, one of the most common ones that people take images of is the Ring Nebula, which is pretty tiny. Well, this one actually is not too far away from the same size as the Ring Nebula. It's pretty sizable for a planetary nebula. So.
Okay, and the Leo triplet. Now this one's a bit different. This one I used a refractor, a Astrotech 111 EDT with a 0.8x focal reducer field flattener. And that one's about 4 hours total time as well.
Okay, so one thing about this, maybe you're already aware of it, Chris, but this is an area that if you got a dark enough place, you would want to do some really long exposures of the area because there is a tidal wave or tidal tail coming off of, I want to say it's NGC 3628. That's the galaxy on the left. And
right.
That's basically because the other two galaxies are pulling on it and it's just shaking the whole galaxy all over the place. And it's got this little tail just going on. It looks like you may have picked it up. It's just going down a little bit. It's
I did pick it up, but in order to actually make it more visible, it screws up the entire rest of the image. So it's you have a choice. You pick up just that tidal tail and mess up the rest of the image, or you end up with this, and this is what I chose.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and M66 there to the lower right. Yeah, you can start to see a little bit of the arm that's actually getting pulled on that on the left of the galaxy too. It's faint, but it's there. Oh yeah, very well done. Okay, there we go. Sorry, that's my fault. And this is the last slide. So wow, it's Chris.
Well, this is a so this is 6 images from a 5-inch refractor, and it was all stitched together with an ASI 678 MC. So, I mean, nothing more than that. I mean, it's, when you have, that 678 is a fairly small camera, so you need a lot of pictures, and so that's what I did.
Oh, very good. What brand was that? Was that refractor? I mean, I don't know if you said that. Sorry.
TMB.
TMB. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I've heard of it. I can't remember what the letters stand for. Maybe you do.
Thomas M. Back.
That's it. Very good. All right. Wow, you schooled me. Okay. All right.
That's only because I hadn't. That's it.
Okay. Well, everybody, I thank you for your contributions for this meeting. Yeah, and I apologize that we had to push it so fast. This again, we've been doing this for about 5 years, and I had no idea we were going to get this many images to look at this time around. So yeah, very impressive. So yeah, I'm honored to be among you guys to really get to see all this work. That's the whole thing about this. We get to share our knowledge. We get to show off our images just because, well, everybody has an ego, right? Yeah, thank you all, and can't wait to see what you guys get in 2024. Just as a reminder, I only mentioned it in on the groups IO area. Maybe I mentioned it in Discord. I don't know, but yeah, it's like I said at the beginning of the presentation. The imaging group does a hybrid meeting where we look at images for a quarterly challenge where we pick a section or an object in the night sky. We do an imaging we image it for 3 months, and then we take a look at the results of what everybody came up with. So with that said, what I did say last time in on Groups IO is that of course Anna took issue with it because it wasn't completely accurate. But I like movies a lot, so the title of the next target challenge is called "Release the Kraken." So it's cutting it pretty close now. If you want to get some images of what the challenge was all about, which is taking images of the Perseus, objects in Perseus, Andromeda, Cepheus, and Cassiopeia. So, but anyway, yeah, the Clash of the Titans kind of reference there, and of course the Kraken or the sea monster is Cetus, which is way off to the south of all that. But anyway. Okay, so I guess that's it for me. I don't know if we're going to cut it off right there, or if
Well,
AV
Chris,
or the officers
we-
had any questions that were put in chat that were worthwhile answering. Well, not worthwhile. I'm sure they're all important, but yeah. Excuse
Chris,
me. For
we
saying that.
have Frank would like to show one picture briefly, if you could, before we
Okay,
move
take
on
it
to
away,
the
Frank.
business portion. All right.
Welcome to the world of grand, scenic, elementary astronomy. No computer needed. See the finished results right on the site using a handheld Nikon P900 or 950 super zoom camera, which what I call the glorious double triple exposure, which brand use in the clouds or the filter effect. Then see a different view. Things that I can see, but a camera couldn't see without this double triple exposure. And even simple double exposure, and that's the that's what I got.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Hannah?
A break.